Production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, we've got a really cool show for you today. I hope that you'll stay with us for the entire hour. It is Wednesday at 4 o'clock, which means it's drive time in Seattle, and everybody's driving. Eric, first of all, how is driving today?
Well, I guess it depends on whereabouts you are. Some areas it's rough, some areas it's just fine, but yeah.
So no major blockers that people need to be aware of to make sure.
No, I mean it's our typical afternoon in Seattle. So we can't complain too much because we got another beautiful day here. Lots of sunshine, which is a nice change of pace, because I remember talking to you on Monday and it looked like it was just going to be cloudy and rainy all week. So
it did.
We got a little bit of a change in the weather, which is all right.
Well, we got our rain yesterday and the day before, I think, so moved through pretty fast, I hope.
Sure.
And so in any event, I want to make sure that everybody knows that this Friday at 3 o'clock, we make our premiere episode entrance onto KIXI 880 AM, which is another Hubbard radio station, which we are very pleased to be part of. And thank you, Eric, for helping me put that together.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, KIXI is one of our sister stations here, and so we're happy to have you aboard there as well.
So now you can listen to Positive Talk Radio Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon.
Double dose.
Yeah, exactly. Friday, and there'll be different shows, I promise you, mostly. So there'll be one show at noon, and then the other show will be at KIXI 880 at 3 o'clock. Guess what, Eric?
You got me. I don't know.
I want to introduce a new regular on the show. His name is Mitch Parfitt, and he is going to be with us whenever he can break from his busy schedule to get out of whatever else he's doing to be here on the radio show. So we're real excited about having him with us. And Mitch, how are you today, young man?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Wonderful.
This is Positive Talk Radio. Are you kidding? We're always great.
Yeah, you got to keep it great. You got to keep it positive.
That's it. And so welcome. And, over the last 20 years, Eric, I know I've had different people on the show from time to time, and some of them have been regulars, and some of them have come, and all of them have gone. And I'm hoping
that's life, isn't it?
It really is. It just makes, everybody has their own things that they're doing and stuff.
Of course.
Mitch is going to join us, and I'm hoping that it can be a very long and prosperous relationship for everybody.
Wonderful.
You might have issues getting rid of me. I think that's the only issue you might have.
Well, I tell you what I'm looking for, because you see, I'm a little older, and so you're liable to say things that I have no earthly idea what you say, because you're a little younger than me, and so we will be crossing the barriers of time to the different generations. So I'm real excited to have you with, because I learned a brand new phrase last Wednesday, which is called catfish. I had no idea what that meant until you explained it to me, and it sounds like a really either it's a great show or a waste of a lot of time.
Yeah, it typically doesn't go very well for a lot of people on the show, but it's interesting to watch.
I can only imagine. So now, have you had a chance to review Randi-Lee's material at all?
I have read a little bit through it today. I'm very impressed with the vast majority of things that she's accomplished, that she's involved in. So it's going to be very interesting guest. I think I'm really excited to talk to her.
And she's a delightful lady. She's been on the show before. As a matter of fact, if you want to go to positivetalkradio.net, she is on episode 420, 371, and 329. I can't seem to get enough of the young lady because I love her story. I love who she is, and it hasn't always been easy. And she's an author. She is. I don't know that I've ever said this before on the air, but she's an author and a champion kickboxer, all at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm wondering how the two come together.
Well, let's find out. We can ask her together right now. Randi-Lee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're just awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back again and again and again.
It's only because you're worth the time, effort, and trouble to bring you here, because your stories are really you've got 3 books out, and they really are remarkable, as well as your boxing career. Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
So my kid is now 16. When he was 5, we put him in jiu-jitsu. Well, the jiu-jitsu class was going on the main mat. On the side area, there was this cardio kickboxing class going on. And there was these 2 ladies in the class. And I said to my husband, I said, they have really nice butts. I want to have a really nice butt. So I joined the cardio kickboxing class, learned that you actually had to run in order to get that nice butt. Didn't come from kickboxing, but that's okay. And but I ended up really liking it. So then I started doing the regular classes, and hitting people was fun. So
And I'm sure your husband thought that you having a really nice butt was a really good idea.
yeah, my husband very rarely says no to me.
He's a smart man.
Yeah.
Well,
Smart
it sounds
man.
like you might beat him up if he said anything different, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
And you got a couple of kids, and
Mhm.
you are an author.
Yep.
And all 3 books that you've written are about you. As one is the first one when you were a teenager, the second
Yes.
one which is really a book of poetry that
Yeah,
you
the
wrote
first
when
one.
you were a teenager,
Yes.
and how difficult your teenage years were for you. And then the second book, which is called A Mother's Truth,
Yes.
and that one has received rave reviews, because it's all about your son and his bout with um and I had to look it up because I didn't know what it meant. Mitch, do you know what neurodiversity means?
No, I don't.
Ooh,
Randy,
we're
what
gonna teach you something. So, the easiest way to explain neurodiversity is your brain thinks differently. So there's a lot of different kinds of diagnosis that can fit under that umbrella. Um, Autism, ADHD, learning disabilities, basically anything where your brain is wired a little bit differently. That's the easy explanation.
How many people do you think in our country have some form of neurodiversity?
Oh, probably almost everybody. That would be my guess, because honestly, I feel like, and I'm not a doctor, everybody, just personal experience, but I feel like everybody is a little different, right? So it's a matter of, you might not fit under the umbrella of the diagnosed term, but I think everybody is, they're unique.
I've been called that many times.
It's a good thing.
Well, it depends on in reference to what.
Well, I think it's a good thing.
And your son has he is neurodiverse, as it were,
Yes. So he has autism, um, as well as learning disabilities, anxiety, depression.
which is what you had when you were a teenager yourself.
Yes, yeah, depression was like my bestest friend as a teenager, like a frenemy.
Now, do you think that because when you were a teenager, there was less known about any of this stuff, that there was no one to help you or nowhere to get help, and nobody even thought about it? They just thought, "Oh, she's sad today."
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, this is going back 25-ish years. And in the 90s, early 2000s, you didn't talk about it. It wasn't a thing. Um, and like I remember TV shows, if a TV show had an episode about it, it was like a really big deal. Like they were breaking barriers. So it wasn't common knowledge. I don't even remember like in health class ever talking about mental health at all. It was only ever physical health. Which I mean is important, but they kind of glossed over a large part of being a teenager. And so, without knowing what it was, like I didn't realize that I was depressed until I was an adult and I can look back and go, oh, that's what it was called.
I think
Now,
it was
Mitch, when
definitely
you
something that was missed for sure. I can relate to what you're talking about. I don't remember it ever being any sort of topic or anything really discussed in school or to where, it correlated to anything that you would understand, kind of thing. So yeah.
and then you go back to my day, and they couldn't even they didn't there were I don't even think the word neurodiversity existed back then.
Maybe not.
So it's first of all, I applaud your courage to write these books and to talk about, and in A Mother's Truth, you talk a lot about the day-to-day living with somebody that has a different emotional structure than the norm. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that book, it chronicles right from when I was pregnant up until I think grade 6. I'm taking notes for the teenage years right now. We're still living them. But because it goes through all of that, it goes through the time when I didn't know what the heck was going on. I He wasn't diagnosed until he was 8. So me and my husband knew right from a very young age. We're like, something's different, but nobody wanted to believe us. And so it was really hard going to the doctors and say, these behaviors are not normal. Oh, that's fine. No, it's really not. And so the struggle in school was the school didn't know what to do with him. And so I'm in Canada, everybody. So here, I don't know, how it is there. From who people I've talked to, it's pretty similar. But if you don't have a doctor diagnosing the kid, the school pretty much says, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I'll just suspend them." I was like, "Okay, well, that doesn't help them at all." So yeah, it was a lot of learning. So my stepdaughter is 3 years older, and she's neurotypical, on paper. And so, you know,
But she's a
taking
teenager. That's
well, she is now 19, actually. She's an adult now. Um, and so, but taking her to school and dropping her off, there was no worry. Like she'd go to school, she knew where she needed to be at what time. Um, and then with my son, it was like, okay, where's the teacher to make sure that they have their eyes on you? Because when I walk away, I don't want you to walk away.
and you lived your whole life that way.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
People used to say to me as he got older and he finally had his diagnosis and stuff. I was um at work and I worked in an office in social services, and other staff members would be like, "I don't know how you do it." And I'm like, "I don't know how I wouldn't do it." Because it's just my life. Like I honestly don't know how I would parent a different way because I don't have a different kid. This is who I have.
that would be hard. That would be hard. Now, Mitch, when you were growing up, and did any of this come to light for you? When did you discover even the word autism?
I mean, growing up when I was younger, when I was early teens, a good friend of mine had a brother that was autistic. And it was definitely something that I know that there can be different, I believe anyway, there can be different levels
Yes.
in regards to that. And so and that was probably where I first heard or learned about anything in regards to it. And I loved his brother. Obviously it was different with communication, with just a number of things, how he responded and stuff like that. But yeah, that would be probably the first time I ever, it came to be. I was maybe 14, 15 years old when I first learned about it. I'd never heard or knew anything about it until then.
Why is mental irregularities so frowned upon, looked down upon? um, made to feel like you're less than, because in our country, I don't know how it is in Canada because you guys won't let me in.
I'll
But
let you in. You can come. It's fine.
oh, that would be swell, but they won't. The government they don't want us poor Americans going up there to pollute the land and the people and stuff.
Yeah, well, there's some of us that want to come see you. So,
But they but when I was growing up, they like to throw pills at problems
Mhm.
like that. Did they attempt to throw pills? I'm not. What is it called? Adderall or
Yeah,
some of
there's
the
a
other?
bunch of different ones. Yeah. So actually, there was a couple of things that you said there. So first, I want to go back to when you started that, and you were saying something about why do you think people with the
Yes.
right? And so
Apparently, I have ADD. I can't keep a straight thought for longer than a minute. So go ahead.
it's all good because as soon as you said that, it popped in my head. I'm like the boxes society puts us in. That is why. If we do not fit into these neat little boxes that society has deemed appropriate, then they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about you. They do, like you were then saying, they do want to just put you on some pills and hope the problem goes away and fixes itself.
It never does, though, does it?
No, because we're not a problem. My kid is not a problem. Every other child, every other adult who is neurodiverse, we're not a problem. And so I think it's such a narrow view that society has always held. And the more we talk about it, the better it's getting. But society has always held this very narrow view. Like me and my husband jokes sometimes that, if this was 50 years ago, they would have just taken our kid and put him in an institution. Bye.
Yep.
Right.
Randy, I like to chime in too and say, so I dealt with a similar experience. So with my son, so I have almost a 15-year-old that in another week, and that was yeah, everything you're describing is something I experienced when he was in elementary school. He had issues, with they classified as ADD or ADHD, and we weren't his mom and I didn't want to go and just jump straight into just giving him pills. And I remember, like when you said earlier, it was like, oh, they just suspend them. And that's exactly what happened with my son. It was like, oh no, he's a problem. He's this. And then it was, well, they basically gave us an ultimatum, which I was very frustrated with. It was like, either you get him on medication and give him these pills, or he can't go to the school anymore. And his mom and I were very much about trying to do a natural approach. Essential oils, there's a lot of other things that you can do, but the natural approach does take a little bit of time. It's not something that you just give them a pill and it's, voila, it's fixed. And, when you're giving a young kid these type of pills, there's a lot of concerns, a lot of things that can go bad. They're warning us about his appetite and all this stuff. And it was something that we didn't want to do. And so we battled with the school for a while about it. And I mean, I can't remember exactly. I mean, we did it. Well, I will say we did do it for a little bit because we were kind of given this ultimatum. But as quick as we could, we stopped. So and it's been 8+ years since that's anything that he's ever taken, and he's kind of learned, and we've done work with him, and it's kind of we've adapted to it. But it was a very frustrating time for myself as a parent. So when I heard you talking about these things, it really kind of hit home for me anyway, in regards to the experience that I had with my son and growing up, and the communication that was relayed back to me from the school, and that it putting them in this not normal category. So it can be very frustrating. So I really appreciate your insight and some of the things you've spoken to already. I completely agree.
So it really does sound like our school systems are very similar. I talk about this in the book, and it will be more in the next book once we finish living through it. The school really gave us a lot of ultimatums too. And, he went to so many different classes and schools that I lost count at one point because, oh, we can't deal with him here, so we're going to push him over there, and that kind of thing. And what we learned during the pandemic actually was that he does really well at home doing schoolwork because he has that one-on-one attention. And I fought with the school for so many years to say he needs an EA. He needs an educational assistant to be with him, and then he will do it and they just wouldn't because he falls into the high functioning category. So they wouldn't do that. I personally hate that term because it's not one thing. You're not high functioning in general, right? Like he's got social skills at one level, learning at another level, physical at another, like it's all different. But yeah, they struggled too and gave us ultimatums. So we're very similar.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And it was not a fun time, and I haven't had to deal with it for a while, but yeah, it was, I related to what you were talking about, so, so strongly. So I appreciate, it's kind of nice having you on here and being able to talk to you. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, the best advice I can give to parents going through something like that is read up on your education laws, because there's a lot of stuff that I learned later that the schools were like, "Oh, this is totally in their best interest." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't have to agree to that. You couldn't have moved him classes unless I agreed to it." But they make it seem like this is for the best and you have to do this. And if you don't read the legislation, you've got no idea what actually should be or should not be happening. So that's my best
strong
advice.
arm you into it. It's like, and assume that, you're not going to do your research, I think is kind of how it felt to me anyway.
Yeah, they always wanted a response like immediately. So I started learning I needed to say to them, you know what, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. They hated it so much. It was great.
Well, didn't they then consider you a quote unquote problem parent?
I think some of the principals probably did. There was some that I didn't get along with. I feel like now I don't really talk to the principal. So in high school, it's more the VP that I talk to. I feel like I've got a good relationship with him. I think that because Lev has proven himself to be able to do work from home, they're a little bit more like, okay, it's fine. But it did take a long time to get to that point. But if this VP leaves before he's graduated high school, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I am so sorry because, and you guys tell me, you guys have both been through this, but does that, putting a label on a child, isn't that defeating for the child going forward? Do they understand what they're being labeled as? Do they get it? Do they care?
I think it depends on the child. For some kids, it definitely can be because you're labeling them and saying, "Yep, you're different. You've been stamped different." For my kid, it actually was pretty relieving, because he knew why people didn't. I don't want to say people didn't like him, but at the time, why like teachers were giving him such a hard time and stuff. He finally understood that. And he understood why he needed extra support and that kind of thing. So for him, it was helpful in that way. But I don't think that's the same for every kid. And I also don't think that even with that diagnosis label, you should have to walk around with a shirt that says, I am neurodiverse, I have autism, or I right. Like it's not something that you need to tell everybody. Because then other people might look at you differently. So I'm going to say it depends on the situation. For the school system, they had to have a label in order to get support. From a governmental perspective here, I'm in Ontario, you have to have the label in order to get that support. So it's very frustrating in that way because you kind of do have to yell and scream about it. But I think every kid, every parent knows their kid best and needs to decide for themselves.
Well, you were such a strong advocate for your children. I can understand you getting a little irritated when they want to push pills on you, or because they're discovering now that these pills that they put these kids on are addictive, and the withdrawals are terrible, and so hopefully they're getting away from it a little bit. It's been your experience?
So I'm kind of torn when it comes to pills. So I don't think they should be the first resort. I don't think they should be the only option. However, they do have a good place in the overall treatment for somebody. So I'm on antidepressants. I came off of them at one point and again almost decided to. So I went back on them. My kid, he was on the ADHD stuff, did not work at all. He took a break from things. He decided, I think it was around grade 8, he decided that he needed more help. And he had been to therapy. We had done the natural stuff. We had done a lot of the other kind of supports, but he still needed a little something more. And he made that decision. He came to me and said, I want to go and try a different medication again. So again, every parent knows their child best. Listen to the child, right? Because when my son was saying, no, I don't want to take anymore, I don't want to take anymore, the school didn't really have our backs. But if you don't want to take it, well, then it's not going to work because I'm not going to fight with you to take it. But when he came back to me and said, I want to try it again, we had a conversation around, okay, so we know that it takes time to find something that might work. We know we might not find anything that works. While you're doing this, we also need to continue with therapy, right? So I think it's having that multidisciplinary plan in place to really do every aspect that you can and not just rely on pills, but also not just say they're bad in general.
I got it. That makes perfect sense. By the way, we're talking with Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. If you go to her website, which is rbwriting.ca, because she's like, E up there in the Canada place.
Do I actually say that though? Like,
well, occasionally pronounce, go through the last letter of the alphabet.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z.
Oh, you said Z. Now, don't they say Z up there?
I think because I'm so close to the border, we're very Americanized in my area. Like Buffalo is half an hour from here. So
oh, okay.
I think if you were to go much more north, then you're going to find the Z and what is that other word they say? A boot instead of about.
A boot.
Yeah. No, a boot which took an about.
Yeah. You either have to go more north from where I am or east. The eastern provinces, they have that more Canadian accent.
Oh, very, very good. And by the way, this is Positive Talk Radio. We need to take a break real quick. And we're going to come back more with Randy and Mitch, because we're going to talk about something a little bit darker in a little bit, because she got a third book that is out now. And we are going to talk about that because it is epidemic in this country. And if we can shed light on it. By the way, if you want to give us a call, if you have someone on the spectrum and you want to give us a call to talk to Randi-Lee and maybe get some advice from her, you can do that. Give us a call at 425-373-5527 or 888-298-5569. And we'll let her and you walk through some of that, because I got my granddaughter is on the spectrum as well. And it is at 4 years old. It's a horrific thing that parents have to go through. And what the kids have to go through, up to and including potty training, which is a major issue in their household. So in any event, we'll be right back after these messages. Again, you're listening to Positive Talk Radio on KKNW 1150 AM. Hello, everybody. If I could have your attention, please. I have an important announcement to make just for you. As you may know, PTR is heard and seen on radio, KKNW, and now Kixie, several websites, podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and most social media. At PTR, we believe in working together to make the world a better place, and because you're listening, we know that you're dedicated to the same. So we'd like to support your efforts by offering an outstanding multimedia package for you at a deeply discounted rate. As our partner, you'll receive commercial creation, both video and audio, at least 10 commercial plays per week, a monthly show to highlight your business and passion, exclusive website positioning with links, video shorts for social media, commercial plays on all shows, podcasts, KKNW, and Kixie. Your commercial is embedded into each episode and as a podcast is sent to over 50 different platforms. All shows are performed live and sent to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and stay there forever. Your podcast episodes are provided to you to use as you see fit. This one-time offer is only $250 a week, based on a 13-week commitment, and as our partner, we are vested in your success, and will do everything in our power to make it happen. However, There are limited spots available, so don't hesitate. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro, and let's get the ball rolling.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey there, I would personally like to thank you for making Positive Talk Radio part of your day. Whether you like podcasts or the radio show, we're glad to have you along. I'd love to hear from you with thoughts about the show and ways that we can make it even better. You are the reason we do these shows, because the more people we can touch, the better we can make the planet and our time here just magnificent. Please contact me, Kevin, at kmmedia.pro with any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, and thank you for being in my dream.
Hi, this is Eric Ryder, Operations Manager for 1150 AM KKNW. We value your opinion and invite you to 1150kknw.com to fill out the 2023 KKNW Listener Survey. Your responses help us to shape KKNW to your listening needs. As an added incentive, when you fill out the survey, you'll have a chance to win an awesome prize. Complete contest details and your opportunity to help us shape this station can be found at 1150kknw.com.
And welcome back to the show, everybody. How is everybody? By the way, Mitch, what do you think so far?
I'm loving it. It's a great conversation. I'm really enjoying chatting with Randy and just hearing about all kinds of things. So it's been a great day. Been a great day, Kevin.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I really am, and I hope that see, I learn so much when I do these shows. It really is pretty. Matter of fact, I'd never heard of this before, and I want to ask Randy before we move on to the third book. My granddaughter has got potty issues. She's 4, and they can't seem to potty train her, and she's got this thing going on about number 2. Have you ever heard anything about that before?
So again, I always go back to every kid is different. When we were potty training, the hardest part was wiping. And that took a long time to learn, and it's reinforcing the good behavior and kind of ignoring the bad behavior. And so for number 2, is it that she's like scared to go to the potty for that, or she just doesn't know she's about to go?
She doesn't go.
She just does.
She doesn't want to.
Okay.
Until it becomes, that's one of those things that sooner or later, whether you want to or not, you're going to.
Yes. So it could be a matter of making it a good experience, a fun experience. And this might sound really gross, but parents talking about how they've went to normalize the fact that it's okay to go and everybody goes.
Yeah, maybe they could watch the Charmin commercial together about
There
the
you
wiping
go.
thing, about having a clean butt and stuff like that. I don't know.
They got that book out there, Everybody Poops.
Yep.
I know
Everybody
people
poops.
have used that book with their kids.
I was quite a bit older before I figured out that beautiful women actually did that. But anyway,
We do.
Oh boy.
Sorry, I digress. Now you've also written a third book, and by the way, you've had a lot of things in your young life happen to you with your children, with your teenage years, and then also with your brother.
So it's actually going to be the 4th nonfiction.
Oh, the 4th one.
The fourth nonfiction. I've written a bunch of kids' books too.
Well, you need to update your website there, Toots.
I probably do.
Well, let's go through all of that, because you're also a children's author as well. And how many books have you written there?
Um,
She's counting
I
the
think like
books.
5.
Oh, very good.
I do those like in between the heavy stuff to break up the heaviness. And actually, I just posted one to Amazon today, so in a couple of days it should be approved and available.
Oh, very good. You're a busy person.
I get bored really easy.
Well, you're using your time for good, that's for sure.
Right? I use my powers for good, not evil.
Well, tell us about your brother.
So my brother, his name was Brandon, and on May 20th, it will have been 2 years since he died by drug overdose. And that is the book that you were talking about. So it's called Goodbye Too Soon, and it goes through how I learned of his death. I had to tell my mom that it happened, and then helped her to plan the funeral. And what I wanted to come from this book, because when he died, I kept saying, well, his death can't just be for nothing, right? He couldn't have lived this life of a lot of trauma. I wish he would have found therapy like I did, but he didn't. So he went through, a lot of horrible experiences that I will probably never know all about because I was the younger sister. And so I just kept thinking, his death can't mean nothing. He had a good heart. He wanted to help people. He just couldn't get past his own issues first. So I thought, okay, well, how can I still have his, message out there? And so that's why I was like, I'll write a book about it. That's what I'm good at. So I wrote a book, and so it does chronicle my experience, but then it goes in depth about the DSM-5, which is the diagnostical criteria for mental health, for addiction as a mental illness, and what that kind of means. It goes into risk factors for developing an addiction, because there are a lot of different kind of red flags, you could say, that could lead a person to have an addiction. And so I go through all of that stuff, talking a lot about grief and coping, and within that grief part, a lot of reminding myself and the readers that if you have a family member with an addiction and you have to put boundaries in place, that's okay. That's important. And to forgive yourself for having to do that, because once they're gone, it felt like once he was gone, like, crap, why did I tell him he couldn't come over? Oh yeah, because he was addicted to drugs. But in that moment, it's like, but I just miss him. So talk a lot about that in the book.
And all 3 books and the children's books have been very, very well received. And you're a lovely person. You really are.
Thanks.
To come through a lot of that stuff, it's just amazing. And so, Mitch, now that I know that you have a teenage son, does it scare the hell out of you that about the prevalence of drugs and what's out there with what's the one that is so potent these days?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl.
That's the one that got Brandon.
Does that make you nervous at all, Mitch?
No, it definitely does. I mean, time flies, and as I'm realizing that he's about to be 15 and he's in high school and hearing stories and reading about certain things, there's definitely a lot of fear. And I think, it comes down to my job as a parent to make sure that he's well educated on some of those things and the dangers and, what the things that can take place, when you step into that realm of activity, I guess, if you'd like to say. But yeah, it does to me. It is scary as a parent because, other kids and people that decide to take part in those things, they can be very influential. They could be friends of yours. You don't want to lose friendships, and so it's very easy for anybody, to succumb to those kinds of things. So yeah, it's I think about it a lot, and it's very scary. It's something that I never really thought, until you get to that point, that I never really thought I had to think about and be scared of. When he was 5 years old, I wasn't thinking about these things, and now that he's almost 15, yeah, it's scary. It's different, and now I'm realizing that I have to be more mindful I have to be aware of a lot more things, not that I wasn't before, but on a more micro, awareness, I guess now, and make sure that I'm looking for things, making sure I'm having those conversations, making sure that he understands the negativity that's associated around it. And hope that it doesn't get, into that certain light where I'm having to have the conversations post these kinds of things, and hoping that maybe I can kind of prevent, anything happening future wise. So, yeah.
If you were, if you've been around like I've been around, you would know that in my day, when the police came to my house when I was 15, it was because I had a bout with MD 2020, which was a new fortified wine on the market at the time. And I got into deep trouble with that. And the police ended up coming over and talking to my dad. Well, that could very well, in this day and age, could very well have been into drugs and had a bad case of fentanyl, and I might never have made it into my 20s. So it's a really big deal. And two reasons I wanted to bring that up is, number one, in this country, there's something called, we have a new emergency hotline. It's federally paid for. It's 988. If you are having a crisis of any kind, be it suicidal, be it drug addiction, be it alcohol addiction, whatever it is, call 988 and you can get help to whatever your problem is. And I'm also learning that, and Randy, I think that Randi-Lee, you'll appreciate this. What Narcan is.
Yes.
They are now approving Narcan as over the counter in the United States.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm an advocate. I believe that everybody, because quite frankly, it's not like your brother, rest his soul, and his name was Brandon.
Yeah.
It's not like Brandon walked around with I like drugs tattooed on his forehead.
No, and actually, to look at him, he's not what you would think of as your typical druggie. He didn't look like it at all. Because sometimes, depending on what type of drug people are doing, they start getting very gaunt and kind of drawn out and really skinny. That wasn't him. He didn't appear that way. And a lot of people don't. You don't realize it.
And so I would recommend, like the EpiPen. Everybody has an EpiPen in their house in case a kid comes to their house and they don't know he's allergic to peanut butter and they feed him peanut butter by accident, or he gets a bee sting or something. You have that at the house available. Now, I would recommend that everybody have Narcan available in their house, because you don't know who it could affect at any given time, and the effects happen so quickly that you could actually be saving a life. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Sorry. So I definitely think that it's a great resource. I don't know what like the shelf life is for it, or how much it would cost to then keep on hand. Because I know EpiPens you have to replace, and I've heard that can be quite expensive. But I know here, naloxone, you just go to, which is pretty much the same. You just go to the pharmacy and you ask them, and they'll even show you how to use it. And then you get like this little case with it in there. And you can take it and use it. And for my brother, I know when I was talking to the person that called in his death, she kept apologizing. She said, I tried to help him. I tried to give him the naloxone. It didn't work. It was too late by then. So had it been closer at hand, maybe it would have made a difference.
Yeah, well, you never know. But I just applaud you for talking about it openly, because it needs to be done. Mitch, what do you think? Question, sir?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I agree. I think too, like with Kevin and stuff, like, on the side of that, or Randy, is that, yeah, there is a lot of people out there that you can't necessarily just look at somebody and go, oh, they use drugs. There is a lot of, there's a lot of things and factors involved, or just things that you look at. But I've had friends in the past, or I've noticed somebody and I found out later that they had some sort of addiction and I would have never known, versus that there can be some situations where it's more apparent. of their situation and, what's going on kind of thing. I think it's always good to be prepared. I know that, the only issue I could see with I think it's good to have available something like Narcan or the one you had mentioned that's available already up in Canada, is that you deal with a lot of situations, and I've had family that's just firefighters, and that where they go and they're utilizing these resources to help somebody come out of it, and it's a weekly thing. They're getting called out to somebody's house and it's being used over and over again. So I still do think, I think it's great, obviously, because of, what it does in keeping somebody alive. But obviously, and you can only do so much, but getting somebody help and, education and getting some sort of resource or support, I think is going to be the most important way to, help everybody grow and come out of this and help each other. Is obviously having support from friends, family, and just anybody in general, because obviously the goal, it's great that it does what it does, but it shouldn't be something that you're just continuously relying on. It's like, oh, it's no big deal, we have this in case, I go too far or something like that. So I think that'd be the only thing that I would say if I had to throw my 2 cents there. But yeah.
Actually, those 2 cents are very interesting because one of the chapters in the book talk about when we go to his place and go to clean up as best we can and find something that we can keep that was kind of him, which we really didn't. Most of it all went in the trash, and there was a bunch of used needles, quite a few of them being naloxone. And so, like you were saying, it's almost like he knew, okay, I might die, so I got to have this on hand when I'm doing it. So pros and cons to everything. It definitely is going to help people, but where is the line going to be drawn? I don't know. I don't have that answer. But I know from seeing Brandon's room, he definitely was abusing the fact that it was available.
So I'd like to get back to what we talked about to begin with, which was your neurodiversity son. And there are lots and lots of people that either are on the spectrum or suspect they're on the spectrum. Can you give us some tips and some ideas of how you would recommend people negotiate the waters of this? Because since you've been through the wars.
Well, go read my book. No,
no, read the book. That's a given. And the name of the book is
then we give a lot. So a few of the biggest tips are you're going to talk to a lot of doctors, a lot of specialists, and they're going to ask the exact same thing. Write it all down. Don't try to remember it. When you're in a super emotional state, you're not going to. I remember sometimes the doctor be like, well, when did he start holding a spoon? I'm like, I don't know. So write down as much as you possibly can to try and remember those things. And that way, when you go, you're giving consistent answers to everybody. Taking notes. I have tons of notebooks all filled out from every time the school called me, what they said, what I said, what the result was. If they're saying you need to come and pick him up because he's being disruptive in school, make them suspend him. At first I wasn't doing that and people were telling me to do that. I'm like, but then the permanent record, that doesn't really exist. At least it's not in Canada. And there needs to be a paper trail. That's the biggest thing I learned. If there is no paper trail, then you can't get them into other supports. So by saying to the school, no, I'm not coming to pick him up unless you suspend him, then there's that paper trail, which for us really helped come grade, it was about grade 7. He was finally able to get into this treatment place, which is a few hours away. He'd come home on the weekends. And without that paper trail, he would have never got there. When he was there, they finally got him the assessments that I'd been fighting the school for, the psychoeducational for learning disabilities, fine motor skills, like OT, speech pathology, all of that stuff that they weren't doing at school. They finally did when he was up there. And it made a huge difference. But again, it was that paper trail. So document everything. Make sure you get a copy of everything. Those are kind of the general tips for parents. I mean, I'd have to have more specific questions to probably give more specific answers, but there you go.
I think that's good. Good feedback for sure.
That is awesome, and it's really is helpful. By the way, again, we're talking with Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, and go to her website, which is
rbwriting.ca.
rbwriting.ca. And go there, and you can pick up all of her books, buy them from her. She makes a little bit more money that way. That would be great. And do you have and you've got another book on the way, is that right?
Yes, called Goodbye Too Soon. Releases May 20th, but it is on pre-order right now. And that's the one that talks about Brandon. Although I did just put one up on Amazon for a kid's book. It's called Bun Bun and I. And so it's about this little bunny, obviously Bun Bun. I named him Bun Bun because my stuffed rabbit, that was his name. So and it's an interactive book. So the one page Bun Bun says something, and the other page the kid draws their side of it. And so it kind of goes back and forth like that.
Oh, sounds fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy the interactive books. Like I've got some sound books for early readers where instead of me giving them the picture, they have to draw the picture. I would have wanted that when I was little.
Very good. It's awfully nice to have you here, and you've been on the show before. Again, if you want to go to episodes, hold on just a second. I have it written down here. Episode 420, episode 321, episode 371, and 329. Those are the other episodes that she's been on. You're a delightful individual. That's why I love having you back so much.
You're one of my favorite shows. I love coming back on here.
Oh, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy now.
You should.
Because you do a lot of podcasts, don't you?
I do a ton. So I have my own couple, and then I go on as many as I possibly can.
And how do we rate, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm going to say you rate up in the top 3.
Yours being one, of course.
Of course.
And the name of your podcast, if somebody wants to go look at that, what do they do?
So it's called the Write or Die Show. Write like you're writing something. Write or Die Show. You can find it it's also on YouTube, but also on any kind of podcast platform, Spotify, Google, whatever. And I interview other authors. We talk about mental health. I also have another one that I just launched a few months ago called Reader's Intrigue, where authors read the first chapter of their book. And that way you can find out if you like it before you go and buy it.
Very good. Well, you don't have a lot of time. When you're a busy person with all that you're doing. So thank you. But thank you for putting this out into the world. It really is needed.
Well, it's very positive for Positive Talk Radio.
Hey, see, Mitch, see, you found a show that you can be part of, Mitch, that hopefully doesn't suck.
It doesn't. I can attest to that, having been on here multiple times.
Well, we love you. You're just incredible. And again, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But thank you for taking the time to make something good happen because of it. And your brother is smiling at you from where he is now.
Yeah, probably after kicking me in the pants first, because I feel like he would have done that.
He would have, only because you've got this great butt that you've got because of your kickboxing.
No, remember that comes from running.
Oh yeah, that's right. You got to do that. So Mitch, thank you. How have we done? Have you enjoyed yourself today?
Yeah, I've loved it. I think it's been great conversations. Randi is just a ball of all kinds of greatness from reading just about her and all the things that she's done. I love it. Randi, I'm gonna have to pick your brain about the kids book thing. It's been something that I've been looking to do. I have a storyline and stuff, and I haven't started, so I might need to reach out to you and maybe get some insight on the best ways to do what, who, what, here, and how. And yeah, no, I really love it. I think that among everything and all this awesome information, things that you've done, I think the kickboxing thing just seems so different than the other things, but also so awesome at the same time. So I think it's great. I've had a really great time talking to you and getting to know you more and seeing everything that you're about.
Thank you.
Being a national champion and all. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something. I have I have my big belt from when I did that in 2015. And it's hanging up, and then I have a whole wall of medals.
Is it like those big WWF, WWE belts, big metal guy?
Yeah.
Do you ever wear it just for fun? Just kind of just
When
put
I
it on
first
and
got
kinda
it, I
walk around
totally
the house?
did. I brought it to work. I was working in an office and I brought it to work and wore it around for a little while. Yeah, definitely did.
Well, you know what, guys? Sadly, we've run out of time, but Mitch, I want you to do something for me. I want you to
Sure.
use my tagline to take us out of the show, which is be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. Your turn.
All right. All right, everybody. You're watching KKNW 1150 on Positive Talk Radio, and be kind to one another because one another is all we've got.
I wish I'd have said that. That's pretty good.